NC State baseball pulls out the brooms and sweeps through the Raleigh Regional. Now we're on to feeling super.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's right, $150 with any winning $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Happy Tuesday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. As we talked about on Friday and also in the community notes on our YouTube page, it is now officially summer, meaning it is June and July. And what that means for Locked On College channels is we are now rolling back into just 3 days a week. This week, we are here for you on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. However, the consensus, the majority of people that have chimed in, said that they would prefer Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So we will take that into account. More often than not, that'll probably be how it comes to you, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We are here on Tuesday celebrating a sweep to the Raleigh Regional. The NC State baseball team took home their own regional in emphatic fashion, beating actually all three teams, as fate would have it. We took down Bryant on Friday night, knocked out the Gamecocks of South Carolina on Saturday night, and then took home the regional championship against JMU on Sunday night. Kenton, what were your initial reactions of NC State really not even having to worry much about this regional, going 3-0?
In the words of one Darren Waller, it's a sweep. They did what they had to do. They broke out the brooms.
Darren Waller.
They broke out the brooms. They broke out the brooms.
Oh.
They did what they were supposed to do.
Waller.
I'm gonna also say this: the fact that not only that they won all three games, the way in which they won all three games, they controlled it. Really,
yes. They
controlled these things for the most part. I wouldn't say from wire to wire, but in most of them, it was in fact like, hey, we pounced on our opponents early and did not let up. And that's what you have to do. That's what I've talked about so often with this team. Play like every team has a number by their name, because we've shown that it doesn't matter how good everybody else thinks they are. If the Wolfpack are playing their best game, I take this squad against anybody, and I mean that. I absolutely wholeheartedly mean that. And they showed that they were that team. They showed that they were every bit of what I thought they were. And my final thought is, I'm not quite ready yet, but depending on how this super regional goes, I'm ready to say our pitching staff has fully arrived. They fully announced themselves as not just being marginal, not just being a little better than that. They have announced themselves as serious, as a group of guys that when you are talking about, hey, what does it take to win in this time? What does it take to get to Omaha? I don't know, maybe a major league slider coming out of one of your closers. Maybe that's what it takes. The mayor, being the mayor, and he's not giving out no keys to the city, ladies and gentlemen. He's only giving K's. He's only giving outs. That's the only thing the mayor's got on the docket today. So very seriously, I think that this team, the offense all year, I don't think that there's been a time where I've had questions about them. It's always, and really even defensively, this year, I didn't see a ton of errors that left me like, oh, man, what's going on? It was always about the pitching. And if the pitching continues to be at this level, go ahead and get fitted for some rings, boys. But, again, that's a long way away, and there's a lot of baseball to be played between them. But I'll tell you what, I'm willing to bet my bottom dollar if this team continues to pitch like this, we'll be just fine all the way through.
The most resounding thing that impressed me throughout the weekend was undoubtedly the pitching and the bullpen specifically. And we've talked about the emergence of Jacob Duden and Derek Smith and Cooper Consiglio. All of these younger guys, they're both freshmen and sophomores that have taken the reins of this bullpen, and they've become a dominant force. In many of these series wins in the back half of this regular season, they've just emerged and shut the game down from essentially the fifth or sixth inning on. And when you have a guy like Sam Highfill and Dom Fritton, who they look pretty good, usually up until like the fourth inning, and then they tend to show signs of laboring once they get into the fifth and later. When you have such dominant forces coming out of the back end of your bullpen, you can afford to hand them the game in the sixth inning and say, all right, take us home from here. We need you. And that's exactly what they've been doing. And honestly, when you think back just a couple years ago, that's kind of been the recipe for Elliott Avent and this pitching staff. You think about Evan Justice back in 2021 or Chris Villeman in 2022. They typically run for like 2, maybe even 3 innings of relief, but you still feel comfortable with them to take you the distance. And so very similar recipe in this year, and it continues to prove fruitful. But not just the bullpen this weekend, but the offense as well. And it's been pretty consistent all year long. But what more can you say about a guy like Alec Makarevich having a clear year in his last season of college baseball? Couldn't be happier for a guy like him. Garrett Pennington, pretty much the same story. Another guy who has carried us all season long. He had 2 massive home runs on Saturday night against South Carolina. And you talk about feeling comfortable throughout this regional, like Kenton mentioned there. I believe the only game we actually trailed in was the first one against Bryant, and it was a very quick deficit before he took the lead and then ran away from it. So coming into this regional, we talked about these 4 teams being potentially the most balanced regional, maybe providing some challenges for the Wolfpack to advance out of it. Felt pretty comfortable to me. I mean, you handle business Friday against Bryant, expectedly so. The only game that you really had to maybe worry about a little bit was South Carolina. But again, I'm pretty sure NC State had the lead the entire game. And even though the Gamecocks shortened that lead and made it pretty interesting there at the end, you still had the better bullpen, the better offense, pretty much the better everything. And we came away with the win. The better team won this regional. That is absolutely for sure. And so for NC State to not only host their own regional for the first time since 2018, but dominate it, this is where we need to get back to every single year. NC State needs to be a face of postseason baseball every single year. And Elliott Avent, despite all the criticism over his 28 years here, he is still, he is a symbol of consistency. In his 28 seasons, I believe he's made it to the postseason like 21, 22 times. That's unprecedented. You will probably never see that level of consistency at NC State baseball again after he decides to hang him up, whenever that may be. It was a fantastic weekend of NC State baseball. Probably a good thing that it wasn't so dramatic as maybe we're accustomed to, because, I mean, like we said, we just handled business, and it felt so good to be on that side of things. Typically, we're having to sit on the edge of our seat, bite all our fingernails off, and worry about what's about to happen next. But again, this bullpen just came over and effectively ended these games in like the 6th, 7th, sometimes the 8th inning. And I want to bring up quick tweets here from Alex G of IPF. And these tweets from Alex just highlight the utter dominance that our bullpen has shown. The tweet reads, in ACC and NCAA tournament games since April 12th, Jacob Duden, Derek Smith, Cooper Consiglio, and Ryan Marone out of the bullpen have combined for 49 1/3 innings, 22 hits, 63 strikeouts, and a 1.83 ERA. So that means giving up virtually nothing. And then you look at the bottom of this tweet, and you look at this list of teams that we've had to run through to arrive at those numbers. That includes Clemson, who's a national seed, UNC, who's a national seed, Florida State, national seed. Virginia was a regional host. They're also going to the Super Regionals. Wake Forest, I'm going to poke a little fun. They had a very embarrassing end of their season, but they were ranked at the time. Duke, your ACC champion, and then these last 3 teams from this weekend, Bryant, South Carolina, and JMU. That's a lot of really quality baseball teams, and these 4 guys in particular have completely mowed through them. This next tweet here, just breaking down the numbers a little bit more, Derek Smith, affectionately known as D-Rock, 11.2 innings, 20 strikeouts, and has not allowed a single run. Kenton was referencing the unhittable slider from Derek Smith. It is every bit of unhittable. Derek Smith is just a sophomore, and we saw glimpses of him last year. Still kind of erratic, a freshman just trying to figure things out, as one often does. He's found it now.
Yeah.
When he comes out of the bullpen now, it's terrifying. He's throwing 94, 95 mile-an-hour fastball with tail, might I add, and then he drops this absolute hammer of a slider that is completely untouchable. Cole Messina, who's a South Carolina catcher, came into this Raleigh Regional as one of the hottest hitters in the country, Derek Smith dropped him on 3 pitches, and it was completely non-competitive. That level of dominance, you can't buy.
Made that boy knees buckle.
Yes. I had tweeted on Monday, I would take these 4 guys against any other 4 guys that have any other remaining bullpen in their country right now. They are confident. They're commanding all of their pitches, and they're coming in and they're shutting it down. NC State should feel like they have a very legitimate case to have one of the better bullpens in the country right now, but with the way that these 4 are pitching. So when you have that level of comfortability out of these guys coming out of your bullpen, if your offense can generate enough, and we're known for our offense, you feel good against anybody. So I understand that now we're advancing the super regionals, and we're facing a Georgia team that has not only the best hitter in the country, but one of the better offenses in the entire country. And I feel confident. I don't care that it's on the road. I don't care that Georgia's a national seed. I like our guys. And they're playing with all the confidence in the world right now. I can't wait to see what they do in Athens this weekend. Coming up next, and this may surprise you, NC State football is still not getting enough love. More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor of the day is LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are just right for that role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They help you hire professionals that you simply can't find anywhere else, and even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So quite frankly, if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, over 86% of small businesses can get a qualified candidate within just 24 hours. So you can hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats that they simply might not have the time or resources to hire effectively. That's why LinkedIn is constantly finding new ways to make these processes easier. They've launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, which very obviously would streamline this process. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Middle portion of our Tuesday show. Now time to talk some NC State football. Yet another list has come out. Stop me if you've heard this before. NC State football is being disrespected. The ACC Network put up this following graphic, and if you're listening, I'll explain it to you. So this is the Football Power Index, otherwise known as the FPI, put out by ESPN. This is a measure of team strength that is meant to be the best predictor of a team's performance going forward for the rest of the season. The FPI represents how many points above or below average a team is supposed to be. Projected results are based on 20,000 simulations of the rest of the season using FPI, results to date, and the remaining schedule. So as you see here, after 20,000 simulations, the top 5 ACC teams with a chance to win the ACC, as you see here, are Florida State, Clemson, Louisville, Miami, and SMU. New addition to the ACC, the SMU Mustangs. I don't care if it's a computer. I don't care if it's a team of people running these simulations. How on earth is NC State not in the top 5 here?
You know, shout out to Sherwood Blunt. Y'all know I love me some SMU. But
Free the guys.
What? Free the guys till it's backwards. But what? SMU having a better chance to win the ACC than NC State that's an interesting one. And the craziest part about this is there are 2 teams on here that we beat last year.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Miami at 9.9%, Clemson at 19.3%. And don't get me wrong. As much as I talk about how bad of a decision maker Kay Klubnik is, he legitimately did start to figure it out, piece it together a little bit towards the back half of last year. I give him his credit for that. You are going to tell me with a straight face, hey, this team is one that I believe is ACC championship material right now. Florida State, I'll give them their props. They're the defending champs. The championship runs through Tallahassee until they say otherwise. Absolutely. Louisville, they were in the championship last year. I don't believe in Tyler Shuck, but I get it. He's got one of the best coaches in the land. in Brom, and then the Browns at home in Louisville. That's like, I don't know what it is, but that to them is like spinach to Popeyes. Every time they're near Louisville, they just get a tenfold increase on their powers. But Clemson, Miami, and FSU, or even if I say Clemson has the pedigree and Dabo has proven he can do it before, sure. Miami and SMU, really? What are they? Can we make sure that these computers are okay? Are these computers overworked? Did we make sure that they had some decent rest before they ran these simulations? Because a team going in to have their first year at this level outright winning the conference is unheard of. It's virtually unheard of in football, and this would be the conference. All right. I mean, no NC State on here is interesting, but we're going to see.
My curiosity was instantly piqued when I saw this graphic, and so I went over to ESPN and found the rest of the FPI projections, because obviously I needed to know where NC State actually falls in terms of the actual conference. They are 6th, so they are technically just off of this graphic. They're right behind SMU. Florida State is 26.2, Clemson's 19.3, Louisville is 12, Miami's 9.9, and SMU is 9%. They have NC State at 7.5%. They also give them a 13.9% to make the college football playoff. So not only do they have us lower than SMU, Miami, and Louisville in just the ACC, we're also lower in our percentage chance to make the CFP than those schools as well. I know all the lines across sports books have NC State's win total at 8.5 wins, which I think is accurate. This FPI index has NC State going 8-4. They are predicting 8-4 for the Wolfpack. With some of my friends, we've kind of already run down our schedule predictions. We'll do that on here probably sometime over the summer. If you look at our schedule and our opponents, especially our home schedule, I do think that 8-4 would be a catastrophic failure. It would, based on who we have on our schedule this year. And I know that we've been looking at 8-4 and 9-3 as pretty solid seasons, continuing to raise both the ceiling and the floor of this program. This year in particular, 8-4 would be a massive failure. We're looking at the pieces that we acquired this offseason. We're licking our chops saying 10-2 or bust, ACC championship or bust, CFP or bust. 8-4 would be a catastrophic failure.
I wholeheartedly agree, because all of these games, most of our toughest games, you look at Tennessee early, it's in Charlotte.
Yep.
I'm sorry to tell you, if a game is in the state of a school that has blank state in its name, it's not a home game technically, but I'm pretty sure it's a further drive from old Rocky Top, Tennessee to Charlotte than from Raleigh to Charlotte.
It's pretty close to the same. I think Raleigh's probably a little bit shorter.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure but either way it goes, you look at the rest of the schedule, and I'm sorry, I'm struggling to find 4 losses. And you look at the previous years that we've had. Last year, abysmal quarterback play, quarterback transferring out of the program midseason, running back 1 transferring out of the program midseason. I don't believe Michael Allen announced till after the season, or was he midseason as well?
It was like the last couple weeks.
Okay. So, but you get my point. There was a lot of turmoil there. And then the year before that, that was the 4 quarterback year, where everybody and their mama who played quarterback for NC State at some point in time got hurt. And, you can make up for those things and say, hey, 8-4 under those circumstances, 9-3 under those circumstances, that's good ball. This year, you have none of those excuses. I mean this with all due respect. I don't think that, not only do I believe that Grayson McCall is a better starter than we've had here since Devin Leary, I believe that CJ Bailey will be the best backup that we have to break in case of emergency in quite some time. And I know that, that's no disrespect to the gentlemen that were here in the past. I thought very highly of MJ Morris 2 years ago, and then last year things didn't necessarily materialize, and then boom, he's going out of the program. But I'm not hearing that CJ Bailey is good. I'm hearing that like he's the definitive future of this program. Like he's a guy. He's a dude that's going to do great things here in Raleigh for quite some time. So all in all, what I'm saying here is there's no excuse to not win 10. There's no excuse. You know, the basketball team's broken the curse. They've lifted the curse. They lifted it in dramatic and spectacular fashion. Elliot Avon is doing his deal after all these years. We got a shot at this thing one more game to get to Omaha and go get those young men some rings and go get himself a ring. Dave Doran's got to do something this year. He's got to. The ACC is ripe for the picking. And with all of the fact that the teams that are the traditional powerhouses and blue bloods are suing to get out, who knows? You may get some fair officiating when you play those guys now. I'm just saying there's no reason to walk away with anything less than 10 wins this year.
Computers, calculators, video games, that's not where these games are going to be played. These games are going to be played between those two white lines. And so with the team that we formulated and the schedule that we've been slated with, it's time that we wake some folks up once the season gets going in late August. But until then, let them sleep. Let them think that NC State has no shot to make some noise in the ACC. They're just going to have another 8-4 season, ho-hum. Dave Doran can't get over the hump. That's fine. That's fine. That's exactly what we want them to think. Because, again, when it comes time to put rubber to the road, I like what we got under the hood.
In the words of Rio, the young OG, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with their belief, with their disbelief in NC State. I'm fine with that. Let's see how it works out for them.
Coming up next, we're going to round out our Tuesday show talking about this calendar year for NC State sports. Who could have thought that we would be where we currently are? After a quick word from our sponsors. Our second sponsor of the day is FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home huge wins of your own. Right now, new customers can get $150 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's right, $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. Or maybe you can jump over to NC State football's win total at 8.5 and lay a little lumber as it currently sits at -118. Perhaps the sports books would lead you to believe that we will win 9+ games. But anywho, get over to FanDuel and continue to win more these postseasons. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Rounding out our Tuesday show, talking a little bit more about what an incredible academic school year. Well, I say academic. We're not talking about academics. We're talking about athletics. From the time that football kicked off last fall up until baseball's currently still continuing their run to potentially Omaha yet again. What an unbelievable year to be a fan of the NC State Wolfpack. And I saw this tweet that I kept going back to on Monday morning from Barstool Pack, just outlining how many different sports have experienced incredible success over the course of this 23 and now 24 school year. You have obviously the men's Final Four. Who could have seen that coming? We're sitting here on June the 3rd. It's still not sunk into me yet. Maybe sometime in July, maybe August. I still can't believe any of that happened, but nonetheless.
Grayson and I knew it was coming all along.
Nonetheless, you also have the women's team who also went to the Final Four at the same time as the men's team.
Now, that one we actually did know. That one we actually did call as soon as the brackets came out. We were like, yeah, that's happening for sure.
We've been waiting on that one to happen, so it was good to see that one follow through. The men's basketball team also won the ACC championship that put them in the big dance. Our first title of the big three in over, I think it was 32 to 37 years. Still trying to grasp that concept as well. The baseball team, they just swept through the Raleigh Regional. They're on to the Supers this weekend and down in Athens, Georgia. 2 more wins away from another return trip to Omaha, where we have some payback to be earned out in Omaha, so I certainly hope we can get back there. The gymnastics team, the ACC champions, they dominated the ACC this year. Football, we saw how they finished last season. 5 straight wins, finished with 9. Incredible offseason. Maybe the most anticipated season coming up this year. We're going to be receiving a lot of preseason ranks here as the polls continue to come out this summer. In wrestling, we've accomplished 6 straight ACC championships. That's a dynasty. Women's cross country, 3 consecutive women's national championships. Dynasty. Abby Lampe just pulled off the women's cheese rolling world championship. This is not even mentioning swimming on here. Swimming is also a juggernaut at NC State. Everything that we are participating in, we are dominating. And I had another tweet on Monday. For many of us that grew up as NC State fans, we could only dream of a complete year put together like this one. When you have this level of success across the board, it's simply unbelievable. And that comes from decades of watching the other schools in our area accomplish feats like this one. And we have always waited for our turn in the sun. Eventually, we hoped and prayed that it would be our turn in the sun. Ladies and gentlemen, we are currently in the sun. You can feel the warmth on this university, on this athletic program, on all of these teams that are putting in the hours to become champions in their respected sports. Has there ever really been a better time to be a fan of the red and white of NC State? I don't know. Maybe back in the 70s or 80s, but it's been a long time since we felt the way we currently do right now.
In the words of Kanye West, he's done miracles on me.
That's right.
What a time. What a time to be alive. What a time to see all these great wins and all that. But I think that we've got some room to still make this thing better. I think that Avon and the gang are going to make this thing a lot better. I got a sneaky suspicion. I have a little feeling that Avon and crew are going to go down to Athens and make something special happen. Make something special happen. Who knows? But there's something in me that's telling me this ain't over yet. This athletic calendar year ain't over yet. By the way, there are exactly 6 teams that participate in ACC wrestling. There are going to be 7 with Stanford, with the addition of Stanford next year. If NC State wins another ACC championship in wrestling consecutively, we will have then won as many as there are teams in the ACC that compete in wrestling. If we win 2 more back-to-back, we have more consecutive wins than there are teams. So we are effectively the Kansas basketball of college wrestling, more or less, because of the way that we are absolutely running the table in conference. Great time to be an NC State fan. Absolutely wonderful time.
A lot of folks have asked us, with all the conference realignment going on, what might that mean for NC State coming down the road? And our answer has been pretty consistent in we just need to focus on what's on the field for right now. The more wins, the more success, the better you will fare when eventually that time may or may not come for the ACC. Although I don't know, maybe the ACC will survive all this nonsense. But for NC State, the best thing they could do is focus on themselves and continue to improve their athletic brand. They have absolutely done that in every sense of the imagination in 2023 and 2024 school year. I mean, again, just look through this list of everything I read off to you. That is incredible. Men's Final Four, women's Final Four. Baseball right now, they're in basically the equivalent of the Sweet 16. There are very few schools in the country that are rattling off this level of success in multiple sports. Actually, I believe NC State is just one of 12 schools that put a football team into a bowl, a basketball team made the NCAA tournament, maybe even the Sweet 16 as far as that, and they've had a baseball team in a regional. One of just 12 schools in the entire country. When you continue to put together school years like that, when you're winning in seemingly everything across the board, that's how you make yourself a more attractive athletic program to potentially other suitors when the time may come. So whether it is the SEC or the Big 10 or the Big 12 or whatever any new conference may or may not be named in the distant future, NC State is continuing to be on the rise. The brand is strong and the brand is growing. Everything NC State related, we're winning right now. NC State Wolfpack fans are winning. We're winning in what it means to be a fan. The long decades of anguish and anxiety, even that is paying off right now. So what a time to be a fan of the NC State Wolfpack in literally any sport you can name right now. There's success everywhere. There's winning everywhere. And it feels damn good to be a part of the pack. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, a lot like you said about conference realignment, I think that the ACC will be just fine in the long term, more than most people believe it will be. But even still, like you said, think about it this way. Realignment is driven by football. We all know that. That's just a fact, right? Nobody thinks about Clemson basketball as a powerhouse. Nobody thinks about Clemson women's basketball as a powerhouse. Nobody thinks about Clemson as a powerhouse in anything except football. So why am I saying that? Why is that important? You are literally winning consistently in one sport away from completely changing your outlook. That's it. That's it. If Dorn and crew can win something this year, and with the quarterbacks that we have for the next couple of years lined up, the coordinators that we have, and the ability to recruit over everybody in the area, because people don't realize what a powerful thing it would be to fully dethrone Clemson in this area.
Oh, yeah.
All of the best players in North Carolina that have left, for the most part, in recent history, went to Clemson. Dexter Lawrence wasn't at Georgia. He was at Clemson. You know, it's rare to see our best guys in this state go to the other side of the country, a la Bryce Love. It's rare. It happens. It's rare. Mainly, they end up there. So, if we can find a way to say, oh, look at that. You want to win the championship? You want to boss up your life? All you got to do is get in with me. That's what you got to do, you know. And when you make that distinction because you are winning and you're a football program that has shown you can produce champions, people will come.
If you build it, they will come. As true as it ever has been for NC State. That'll do it for us here on Tuesday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments down in the comment box. Tell us what you thought about NC State sweeping through the Raleigh Regional. Maybe if you were at the Doak, let us know your take on the atmosphere. I know South Carolina fans were salty. They said that our ballpark was too small. We're a high school field, making fun of us. Look how that turned out for them. The ballpark was just simply too small for those little Gamecocks. They went home sad. Tell us what you think about NC State football continuing to be disrespected in the ESPN FPI. Maybe it matters. Maybe it doesn't. Doesn't really feel like it does because we got bigger plans than what the FBI has to say about it. And tell us what you think about this entire academic/athletic school year for NC State. Can you believe this level of success across all sports? How good it is to be a fan of the Wolfpack right now. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already, and we will see you tomorrow on Wednesday. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.